Welcome to a special place called Unity Village. Over the past 100 years, this picturesque haven outside Kansas City, Missouri, has evolved from a weekend getaway to become the headquarters of a worldwide spiritual movement. Unity was founded by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore in 1889. For more than a generation, they led their prayer, publishing, and educational activities from offices on Tracy Avenue in downtown Kansas City. In 1919, the Fillmores brought 58 wooded acres 16 miles from their downtown headquarters and turned it into a rustic weekend and vacation retreat. Unity workers and their families camped in tents and shanties. The oldest building on the property was here long before the Fillmores. This log cabin was probably built by the Pacific Railroad near the end of the Civil War. Trains still rumbled through a secluded section of Unity Village. By the summer of 1921, the tents and shanties were being replaced with the first permanent buildings. They were constructed by Unity workers and include this clubhouse for employees to entertain their families and friends. The master planner of Unity Village was Rickard Fillmore, the middle son of Charles and Myrtle. After studying at the Chicago Art Institute, Rickard traveled to Europe and fell in love with the cottages of the English countryside. Returning home, he designed these early buildings with hand-cut wooden shingles to resemble the thatched roofs he saw in England. The cottage that Rickard designed for himself has massive wood beams in the great room. At one end is a large fireplace of native limestone. The limestone, used for many buildings and rock walls on the property, came from large quarries on the grounds. One that remains looks like a cave. Construction in the 1920s was done mostly with horse and mule power. There was a full-service blacksmith shop on the grounds. These hand-forged ironworks were made by Unity craftsmen. Early visitors escaped the summer heat at a swimming hole. In 1922, the Fillmores built a pool complete with limestone walls, footbridges, and dressing rooms. Water, with its life-giving flow, symbolizes Unity's prosperity principle in action and was required for farming and other operations, including the pool. It wasn't long before workers on the property started drilling wells, but they never found water. Instead, they discovered oil and natural gas. At one time, there were more than 25 producing wells on the property. Not big pushers, but they did furnish enough oil to heat the downtown headquarters and treat the farm's dusty gravel roads. The oil also provided refined gasoline for trucks and machinery. The natural gas was used for streetlights and cook stoves. Unity's oil and gas wells have been capped for many years, like this one near the golf course. This building, called the Powerhouse, once contained equipment for pumping the wells. Today, it's used for storage. The first golf course was a two-hole affair. Imagine playing it in 1921, moving from one hole to the other, back and forth, back and forth. It could be the reason why 3 years later the course was expanded to 9 holes. Today, when area golfers come to play at our manicured course, they see the handiwork of a Wichita chainsaw artist who carved 2 golfers from old trees. Lacking an underground water supply, Rickard Fillmore built 2 large lakes. An unusual concrete buttress dam was completed in 1927. It was the only one like it in Missouri and one of the few west of the Mississippi River. Nearby is the water purification plant. From here, water is pumped to a large tank near the top of the Unity Tower, giving the village its water pressure. Several miles of trails wind through the woods on the property. One of them is one of the only natural bridges in western Missouri. Pioneers traveling west described it in their journals. One writer said that the sun streaming through the opening made it look like a stained glass window. There is a legend that the bridge was a hideout for the outlaw Jesse James. The James gang included the younger brothers, whose father owned a nearby farm. They would have been very familiar with the natural bridge and the surrounding countryside. Unity Village has long been a sanctuary for native wildlife. As early as 1921, the Fillmores prohibited hunting. Today, wild birds and animals enjoy similar protection. The woods hold hundreds of deer. Flocks of Canadian geese raise their young here and remain year-round. Former Unity President Charles R. Fillmore, the grandson of Charles and Myrtle, was an ardent conservationist. He helped re-establish wild turkeys in Midwestern Missouri. With luck, you may see some of these secretive birds at Unity Village today. Now, over the years, the Fillmores added to the original 58 acres, and the property became known as Unity Farms. For nearly 50 years, Unity Farms was famous for its orchards, cider, and other products like eggs and milk. At the height of its operations, Unity Farms had 5,000 apple trees, producing 16 varieties of fruit. Workers produced 14,000 gallons of cider each fall. The big barn on Colburn Road could store 7,000 bushels of apples over the winter. In the barn kitchen, workers made jams and jellies, apple butter and syrup. Besides apples, the orchard had 400 other fruit trees, including peaches, cherries, plums, and persimmons. 100 beehives helped pollinate the trees. There were also blackberries and 12 acres of grapevines. The farm even had a herd of 40 goats because the Fillmores liked goat's milk. Outside the main gates, drivers on Highway 50 could stop and buy produce and honey. 2 large greenhouses grew vegetables and flowers, but as times changed, farming operations were gradually phased out, and today only the potting shed remains, which once connected the greenhouses. Unity Produce is making a comeback. The big barn on Colburn Road is once again selling fresh fruits and vegetables, thanks to the gardens at Unity Village, a nonprofit group. These days, the emphasis is on organic farming. Volunteers are planting heritage fruit trees in the original orchards and installing large garden beds. In 1924, Rickard Fillmore designed a home for his parents, Myrtle and Charles. This was his mother's dream house. No kitchen. Myrtle didn't like to cook. Instead, the family walked across the road for meals prepared by Myrtle's mother-in-law, Georgiana. Her farmhouse is now the golf course clubhouse. Georgiana served meals around a large harvest table. She filled it with fruits and vegetables from Unity Farm. One of Myrtle's favorite places to relax was the porch, surrounded by flower gardens and apple orchards. Myrtle's house is known as the Arches, and today the house has a kitchen. The Fillmores' vision for the property grew as their outreach expanded. In the 1920s, construction started on the central courtyard. The architectural style was Mediterranean. Rickard's travels to Italy inspired his red tile roofs, stucco walls, arches, courtyards, breezeways, and fountains. The first 2 buildings on the central courtyard were the Tower and the Education Building. The Fillmores had a consecration ceremony for the Tower in July of 1927. Both it and the Education Building were completed 2 years later. Today, they are on the National Register of Historic Places. Rickard modeled the Unity Tower after the church bell towers he had admired in Italy. But there's a big difference. This is a working water tower. Just below the observation deck is a 100,000-gallon tank that provides water pressure for the village. Purified water is pumped from Unity's water plant to the top of the tower. The tower rises to 165 feet. The view from the top is spectacular. On a clear day, you can see skyscrapers in downtown Kansas City and a church steeple in Independence, Missouri, more than 15 miles away. Plans are underway for the restoration of the tower as a holistic healing center. The Education Building originally housed the Silent Unity Prayer Ministry. Today, it is home of Unity Institute and Seminary and includes classrooms, as well as the Unity Library and archives. The building is rich in beauty and history. On the first floor is the Fillmore Chapel, the only chapel at the village where both Charles and Myrtle Fillmore lectured and prayed. It looks the same as it did 80 years ago. The frescoes have been restored. They took the original artist, David Ahrens, more than 2 years to complete. On the second floor, the archives showcase the original offices of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. After World War II, Unity's headquarters moved to the property. Because of material and manpower shortages, Rickard devised new construction methods in the 1940s. His innovative techniques received attention from architects and engineers from all over the country. The administration building, motel, and guest cottages were all built with concrete sections that were poured into large molds and then hoisted into place with cranes. By the 1940s, Unity was a major spiritual publisher. In those days, all Unity publications were printed and mailed from the publishing wing of the administration building. Through much of the 20th century, this was a state-of-the-art printing facility. In 1953, the land holdings were incorporated as a Missouri municipality called Unity Village. Unity Village holds elections for town council and mayor. It maintains its own roads and utilities. The village also has its own zip code. Before the era of electronic communications, Unity Village sent out 38 million pieces of postal mail each year. Each morning, the staff ordered a prayer of thanks over the incoming mail. The tradition continues today. Unity is perhaps best known for Daily Word magazine, which has inspired readers since 1924. In the early days, there were about 6,000 subscribers. Today, more than 1 million people read Daily Word in print, online, and with a smartphone app. The magazine is printed in 6 languages and 18 foreign editions, distributed in 150 countries. Daily Word is still written and designed at Unity Village. So is Unity Magazine. The Blue Room, once the publishing reception area, is one of the loveliest spots at Unity Village. The room is filled with the handiwork of Unity craftsmen, hand-carved walnut doors, etched glass blocks, and intricate mosaics. Special lighting creates a blue glow, representing our spiritual heritage. Unity is also famous for its worldwide prayer ministry called Silent Unity. In 1890, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore began the Society of Silent Help, which soon became known as the Society of Silent Unity. In the early days, Myrtle prayed with and for others in her home. During the services, she always placed a lamp in the front window. Today, the lighted cupola on top of the Silent Unity building symbolizes continuous prayer. Prayer associates respond to requests 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Silent Unity receives more than 2 million calls, letters, and emails for prayer support yearly from all over the world. That's more than 6,000 requests a day. The Silent Unity building was completed during Unity's centennial year in 1989. The building is dedicated to prayer, as seen on its cornerstone. Honoring the connection of body and soul, the Silent Unity building also has a 24-hour fitness center for employees and guests. It is housed in the lower level of the building. Unity Village Chapel, which is also known as the Activity Center, was completed in 1975. It offers Sunday services and hosts a variety of classes, workshops, conferences, and public events. The auditorium seats about 1,100. In the early days, the Fillmores operated a vegetarian restaurant at their downtown headquarters. Today, vegetarian entrees are just one of the choices on the menu at our dining and banquet facility. Lunch is available for employees and guests Monday through Thursday. Our award-winning chefs offer full-service catering for campus events, including meetings, conferences, weddings, and receptions. The newest addition to Unity Village is the Hotel and Conference Center. When it opened in 2007, it was the first LEED-certified green hotel in the Midwest, with energy-efficient operating systems, water conservation, and green housekeeping practices. The roof has nearly 100,000 energy-efficient clay tiles. 37 underground wells provide ground source heating and cooling. The Hotel and Conference Center is a symbol of Unity's ongoing commitment to the environment. The Central Courtyard boasts one of the most spectacular fountains in the Kansas City area. Following a complete restoration in 2010, Unity's fountains are bigger than a football field, the largest in the metro. The award-winning Rose Garden and Bridge of Faith are the settings for more than 70 weddings each year. The late Rosemary Fillmore Ray, granddaughter of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, once wrote, "The Fillmores envisioned a city of God here at Unity Village. Farmers, carpenters, stonemasons, and woodcarvers all gathered together to build a spiritual city." If you walk around Unity Village today, you feel the spirit of these people, and everywhere you see the beauty and wonder of Unity Village.